Ladies and gentlemen, it's just Hewes. Thank you for watching. I am standing on the battlefield at Antietam. In fact, I'm standing on a part of the battlefield that is called the Sunken Road or Bloody Lane. Let me show you what I'm looking at here. Okay, now this is Bloody Lane. Okay, there's one end of it, and here's the other end of it. Okay, now the reason I'm standing on this part of Bloody Lane is because, as many of you know, my great-great-grandfather fought for the 2nd North Carolina Infantry Regiment of the Confederate Army, and he fought here at Antietam. And at some point during the daytime of that day, September 17th, 1862, he was here. He was at Bloody Lane. Okay, now he was also part of his unit was sent to reinforce Stonewall Jackson's brigade. So I don't know exactly where he was at what point during the daytime, but at some point of the daytime he was here at Bloody Lane. But that is not the purpose of this video. The purpose of this video is to talk about the narrative that has come down to us through the years, the historical narrative that is obsolete. Basically, the idea that Antietam was a draw, that it wasn't a victory one way or another, that somehow, well, I guess it's good enough for us to announce the Emancipation Proclamation. That's a bunch of crap. That's a political narrative that was passed down through the years because George McClellan was a Democrat, Abraham Lincoln was a Republican, and there's no way that Abraham Lincoln and the Republicans could allow George McClellan to come out as a hero. Okay, so basically the narrative has always been is that Antietam was a draw. It wasn't a Union victory. It was okay. Okay, but anyway, let me tell you why it was a Union victory and not a draw. Okay, basically what happened was after the Second Battle of Bull Run, Robert E. Lee looked at the Union Army, which had been shattered after the Second Battle of Bull Run, and said they are not in a condition to defend themselves. They are disorganized. They just streamed back to Washington in disorganization. The Union doesn't even know which generals they want to put in charge. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to invade the North. Okay. Now, Robert E. Lee's army up to this point had basically kicked the Army of the Potomac around like a rag doll, had beaten it up, had kicked its butt all over the place, and the Army of the Potomac was, quite honestly, a broken army. Okay, now, George McClellan was asked to put that army back together again, and in 5 days, get his army on the road toward Antietam. Okay, now this was a major inconvenience to Robert E. Lee because he thought that the Union Army was broken, and he was invading the North. And he was shocked at how fast the Union Army had been put back together and how fast it was moving. So the battle at Antietam took place here with that as a pretext. Now, Robert E. Lee thought that he knew George McClellan because of his battles, his 7-day battles, the famous 7-day battles. He had defeated George McClellan. He thought George McClellan was timid and slow moving and everything else. The exact narrative that has come down to us through history. But at the Battle of Antietam, that all changed. George McClellan was moving with a lot more energy, a lot more everything. And basically he attacked and defeated Robert E. Lee's army. Okay. Now I'm going to finish this up over at the Dunkard Church, and we'll finish talking about this in just a moment. Okay, so basically here I am at the Dunkard Church. Yeah, give you a quick look at that right there. And to carry on with what I was saying, basically the narrative, the historical narrative that has come down to Americans and the world basically about the Battle of Antietam was that it was a draw, and that's just complete nonsense. Basically what happened was Robert E. Lee invaded the state of Maryland thinking that the Union Army had been defeated and demoralized and just about destroyed at the Second Battle of Bull Run, and he was right. The army had been demoralized and defeated and basically destroyed after the Second Battle of Bull Run. What he didn't count on was George McClellan putting that army back together in 5 days and getting it on the road. Robert E. Lee was actually shocked at how fast George McClellan was moving that army, and it really altered his plans. Now basically he was invading the North. He was headed to Pennsylvania. He wanted to have a battle in Pennsylvania to win the war basically, and George McClellan cut him off, basically. He cut him off at the Hagerstown Road, ended the invasion right there. He attacked him at South Mountain. It basically caused Robert E. Lee to begin a retreat into Virginia. Okay, now the only reason Robert E. Lee didn't take his army back into Virginia at that point was because Stonewall Jackson took Harper's Ferry, and Robert E. Lee thought that he had an opportunity. Okay, now Robert E. Lee again thought he understood George McClellan. He thought he understood that he was a slow-moving general, that he was timid, that he wouldn't attack, which is basically the narrative that has come down to, to us through the different narratives that have been promoted. Okay, now those narratives were politically motivated. George McClellan was a Democrat. Okay, Abraham Lincoln and the administration he worked for was Republican. Now, of course, I don't blame Abraham Lincoln, although Abraham Lincoln did participate. But the narrative was put in place, and it was basically fiction. At least much of it was fiction. It was an exaggeration of things that might have been kind of true, but weren't exactly true. At the Battle of Antietam, George McClellan attacked and almost destroyed Robert E. Lee's army. Okay, now, because he didn't completely destroy Robert E. Lee's army, the narrative came down that he missed his opportunity, that he was incompetent, that he was all these things that we get through history. And the thing is, it's like up to that point, Robert E. Lee had defeated the Union Army over and over and over again. So why would you expect the Union Army to destroy Robert E. Lee's army? It's ridiculous. It was kind of a bait and switch thing where General McClellan was called upon to repel an invasion, to save the Union, and he did those things. Now, after he did those things, they did the bait and switch. That's where they said, well, you should have destroyed his army. It would have been a success if you had destroyed his army. Well, his army was almost destroyed too. So in the battle, both armies were almost destroyed. But George McClellan repelled and sent Robert E. Lee packing. George McClellan defeated Robert E. Lee. This is Joseph Hewes. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, hit like. If you have any comments, place those comments in the comments. Joseph Hewes signing out. Thanks for watching.